Shu was deemed unfit for marriage, so her father married her to the strongest slave. Virginia, 1856. They said I would never marry. 12 men in 4 years came to my father's plantation. They looked at my wheelchair and walked away. Some were kind. Most were not. She can't walk down the aisle. My children need a mother who can chase them. What's the point if she can't even have sons? This rumor spread like wildfire in 1850s Virginia. At 22, I wasn't just disabled. I was defective. Defective goods. My name is Ella Lena Whitmore, and by 1856, society had already decided my life was over. No one expected my father's desperate solution would ignite a love so rebellious it would resonate for generations. But before you judge him, you must understand the cage we lived in. Virginia in 1856 was not kind to women. And it was even less kind to women who could not stand. My legs had been useless since I was 8. A horseback riding accident. A fractured spine. 14 years in a polished chair my father commissioned. So elegant it made society forget what it symbolized. But they never forgot. The chair wasn't the real problem. It was what it represented. Dependence, fragility, a woman incapable of fulfilling the duties of a wife. My father, Colonel Richard Whitmore, owned 5,000 acres and 200 slaves. He could negotiate cotton prices in 3 states. But he couldn't negotiate my value on the marriage market. After the 12th rejection, a 50-year-old drunk, I understood one thing clearly. I would die alone. My father understood this too, and it terrified him. One evening in March 1856, he called me into his study. "I will marry you to Josiah," he said. I burst out laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was impossible. "The blacksmith," he clarified. The room fell silent. "Father, Josiah is a slave." "Yes," he said. "I know exactly what I'm doing." I thought he'd lost his mind. What I didn't know was that I was about to meet the man who would change everything I knew about strength and valor. They called him the Brute. 7 feet 10 inches tall. 200 pounds of muscle forged from iron. Hands marked with the scars of the forge. Shoulders that barely fit through doors. He looked like a weapon. The first time he entered our living room, he had to duck to get under the corners. His eyes never left the floor. "Yes, sir," he said to my father, his voice deep but surprisingly soft. When we were alone, the silence stretched between us like a test neither of us wanted to fail. "Are you afraid of me, miss?" he asked softly. "Should I be?" "No, Miss Bullet. I would never hurt you." His hands, enormous, strong enough to bend iron, rested gently on my knees. And then I asked him the question. The question that changed everything. "Can you read?" A flash of fear crossed his face. In Virginia, teaching slaves to read was illegal. "Yes," he said finally. "I taught myself literary. Everything I can find. Shakespeare, newspapers, anything." "What's your favorite play?" "The Tempest," he replied without hesitation. "Prospero calls Caliban a monster. But Caliban was a slave on his own island. Makes you wonder who the real monster is." Just like that, the Brute vanished. In her place was a man who could talk about Shakespeare, with more insight than half the men who had rejected me. We talked for 2 hours. About Ariel and freedom. About being trapped in bodies and systems that defined you before you could even define yourself. Jed. When he finally said, "Anyone who can't see beyond a wheelchair is a fool," something inside me opened. For the first time in 14 years, I felt seen. Not pitied. Not tolerated. Seen. The arrangement began in April. Not a legal marriage. That would have been impossible. My father entrusted Josiah with the responsibility of my care. He moved into a room adjacent to mine. And slowly, awkwardly, we built a life within an impossible structure. He helped me get dressed, always asking my permission first. He carried me when necessary, as if I weighed nothing. Who rearranged my shelves alphabetically just because I asked. And in the afternoons he read to me Keats, Shakespeare, Milton. His voice enveloped the poetry, as if it had been waiting a lifetime to be heard. I started spending time at the forge. He taught me to hammer, to shape iron. My legs didn't work, but my arms did. The first time I bent metal with my own hands, dripping with sweat. And laughing despite myself, he looked at me like I was miraculous.